Welcome to Model Lessons in Mathematics, Elementary Science and Technology, Social Studies, Creative Arts, Physical Education for lower primary grades, produced by Rwanda Education Board in collaboration with the World Bank.
Children, welcome to mathematics lesson. Today, Teacher Abraham going to be with you in mathematics. As usual, our lesson or our unit we have started today is fractions, half and a quarter. Fractions where we have a half and a quarter. But the lesson we are going to look at is concept and the different parts of a fraction. Concept and the different parts of a fraction. We've been looking at whole numbers all along. We've been looking at whole numbers. We looked at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 100. But now we are going to look at a half. What makes up a half? What is a fraction? So today we are going to look at what makes up a fraction and what are the parts of a fraction. And maybe by the end of the lesson, we shall be able to know what a fraction is. But before we start our lesson, here I have some of the items which you already know. I know you children in your area, you know what we call an orange. This is an orange. This is onion. This is a tomato, and I like tomatoes, by the way. And this is a piece of paper. So all these are going to help us today to learn what a fraction is. But before we go to understand what a fraction is, there's some good song I want to sing for you. And it goes, sharing is a Christian way of saying, I love you. So I want you to join me in this song. Sharing's a Christian way, a Christian way, a Christian way. Sharing's a Christian way of saying, I love you. Sharing's a Christian way, a Christian way, Christian way. Sharing the Christian way of saying I love you. Sharing the Christian way, a Christian way. Sharing the Christian way of saying I love you. So, now you have understood how it goes. I want you to go to sing together with me. Get ready, stand up with whatever you have you want to share with me. Then we sing together. 1, 2, 3, go. Sharing the Christian way, a Christian way, a Christian way. Sharing the Christian way of saying I love you. Sharing the Christian way, a Christian way, Christian way. Sharing the Christian way of saying I love you. Sharing the Christian way, a Christian way, Christian way. Sharing the Christian way of saying I love you. Thank you very much, children. That's wonderful. Now we are going to start our lesson. You can now get seated and follow up what we are going to look at today. You've been hearing the word sharing in our song. Sharing means that we have something which is one, but we are going to divide it into different parts. But now, we want to divide into dividing into two equal equal parts into 2 equal parts. We are having one whole. For example, do you see all this? Do you see this paper? It is 1. It is complete 1. 1 whole. But I want to share it with you equally. We get equal parts. Because we are 2, me and you, we want to share this paper into 2 equal parts. So that when I get the part which is equal to yours, you are not going to complain. You are not going to complain that I have taken a bigger part or you have taken a small part. But we have to get equal parts. Because we are 2 people, we need to divide this paper into 2 equal parts. Here we go. I'm going to fold this paper such that each part is equal to another. Then I will cut it into 2 parts. Then I will ask you questions. Be ready to get the questions I will be asking you. So now, I'm going to cut it into 2 equal parts. Follow me properly and see what I'm doing. Okay. These 2 parts are equal. Are you seeing them? This one is equal to this one. Because even if I put them together, they are equal. So when I give you this part, and I take this part, it means that we have divided the whole paper into 2 equal parts. The whole paper, one whole paper, divided into 2 equal parts. I want you to understand the word equal parts. Equal parts. Therefore, when I give you this part, but before you answer that question, let me ask you, how many times, remember, understand the question properly, how many times have I cut into this paper? The question is, how many times? Have I cut into the paper? How many times have I cut the paper? How many? Who can now tell me? Good. I've cut it into 1 time. I've cut it into 1 time because I used a pair of scissors and I cut it into 1. I cut it into 1 time. So, question number 2. How many parts? How many parts have I cut it into? How many parts have I cut it into? The first question is, how many times have I cut it? It is once. You have answered that one. So how many parts? Who can tell me? Good. There are 2 parts. There is this one and this one. And these parts are equal. They are equal. So if there are two parts and they are equal, you have now seen that this part is equal to this part. I want to give you this part now. So out of the two parts, I've given you one. So what have I taken? I have taken one out of two parts. And you have also taken one out of two parts. The two are these parts we are sharing. But I have taken one out of the two parts. And you have also taken one part out of the two parts. Therefore, one out of two is called a fraction. One out of two is called a fraction. Read again, a fraction. One more time, a fraction. So out of the two papers we have shared equally, I have taken one out of two, and you have also taken one out of two. Therefore, one out of two is called a fraction. You understand that? Good. Now, let's look at another example. Here I have an orange. This is a fruit. Do you like oranges? Good. But I want to share it to two people, to two children. But I want to share it equally. I want you to understand the word equally. Excuse me. I want to understand the word equal. Because when I get the equal part and you get the equal part I've shared, you will not complain and I will not complain. I will not say that Teacher Abraham has taken bigger part than mine, than yours. Or I will not say you have been given a smaller part than Teacher Abraham's. So now, what we are going to do is to cut this orange, beautiful orange, into, how many times should I cut it into? How many times? How many times did we cut the paper? One time. Therefore, I'm also going to cut this orange one time. Who can tell us how many parts are we going to get? Who can tell us? Who can tell us? Who can tell us? Great. That's beautiful. There are going to be two parts. Two equal parts. Here we go. I'm now going to cut it. Look here properly. I get my knife. This is a knife. Very sharp. And this is the orange. I'm going to cut. So, 1, 2, 3, go. Good. Good. These are two equal parts. These are two equal parts. This part is equal to this part. And therefore, when we bring them together, my dear friends, when we bring them together, they are going to make one whole orange. Is that clear, children? Great. So, I want now to give you this part. So when I give you that part, what have I given you? What have I given you? Have I given you a whole orange? Have I given you a whole orange? No, I have not given you a whole orange. That's great. That's beautiful. But I've given you part of the whole orange. But which part have I given you? Can you tell us? Can you tell us? Tell us. It is A half. Beautiful. It is, I've given you 1 out of 2 parts. And I've also taken 1 out of 2 parts. Is that clear, children? Good. And therefore, 1 out of the 2 parts is called what? We said it is called what? It is called a fraction. Is that clear, children? Good. So this is also called a fraction. A fraction. Next time I want you to understand this. When you are sharing with your friend something like an orange, make sure that you share equally. Because I don't want one of your friends to be complaining. For example, you have bought a chapati there at the shop, or Linda's. Make sure that you share it equally. Your friend gets the part which is equal to yours. Is that okay, children? Let's have another example here. I have an onion here, and I have a tomato. This is a tomato. So good, so nice. I think let's first share this. Let's first share this. This beautiful tomato. I can cut it like this, or I can cut it like this. Who can tell me how many times am I going to cut this tomato? Who can tell me? How many times I'm going to cut it in 1 time? So how many parts am I going to cut? Because I want to share it to 2 people. 2 people must share this. So how many parts am I going to share? Am I going to cut it in 2? They are going to be 2 equal parts. Beautiful. That is wonderful. You are good children. So now I'll get my knife. Then I cut it like this. Wow. Wow. So the tomato is cut into 2 equal parts. What shows that the tomato is cut into 2 equal parts? What shows this is that when I bring this part and I add it here, the tomato is now complete. It is now 1. It is 1 full tomato. So I'm giving you 1 part, and I'm taking 1. So what part have I given you? What part have I given you? You can tell me. I've given you 1 out of 2 parts. 1 out of 2 parts. So you have taken 1 part out of 2 parts. Is that clear, children? Great. And therefore, this is called a fraction. So children, have you understood what you mean by a fraction? At least now you understand what you mean by a fraction. Is that clear, children? Good. Okay. So we continue. But before we go to what makes up a fraction, there's some good song here. I want to sing with you. I like singing. And when I start teaching, I give you some songs, you learn better. The song goes like, I want to be your friend. I want to be your friend. I want to be your friend. So it goes like this. I want to be your friend a little bit more. I want to be your friend a little bit more. I want to be your friend a little bit more. I want to be your friend a little bit more. Okay, now we are going to sing together. It's just a simple song. It's a simple song, and they are just simple words. 1, 2, 3, go. I want to be your friend a little bit more. I want to be your friend a little bit more. A little bit, a little bit, a little bit more. I want to be your friend a little bit more. I want to share with you a little bit more. I want to share with you a little bit more. A little bit, a little bit, a little bit more. A little bit, a little bit more. Wow. Can you clap for yourself? Because you are good children and you are enjoying the song. Wow, that's wonderful. Now, let's look at, we have seen what a fraction is. And we have now seen how to write a fraction. We have seen how do we write a fraction. We write a fraction depending on how many equal parts, how many equal parts have been cut. So make sure that you get to know that the parts must be equal. The parts you are sharing must be equal. Understand that very carefully. Now, when I give you one part, out of the two parts we have got, that means that the part I've got is 1 out of 2. 1 out of 2. And the part you yourself you have got is also 1 out of 2. Is that clear, children? Good. And when we bring the 1 out of 2 and 1 out of 2, when we bring them together, we get 1 whole. We get 1 whole. 1 whole orange, 1 whole tomato, 1 whole paper, 1 whole bread, 1 whole chapati, and so on and so forth. Now, can you look here, all of you? Look here. Parts of a fraction. Parts of what? A fraction. Can you repeat again? Parts of a fraction. Repeat. Parts of a fraction. Already we have seen what we call a fraction. So, what are these parts that make a fraction? You get my point? Good. Now, who can read this fraction for me? Who remembers? Who remembers? Yes, it is 1 out of 2. It is a half. It is a half. Therefore, 1 out of 2 is read as a half, or 1 over 2. So these are some of the mathematical terms you will be using. So we read this one as a half. Everybody, a half. Again, a half. One more time, a half. Or if you don't read it as a half, you read it as 1 over 2. 1 over 2. Again, 1 over 2. Let me take you back slightly. When we are dealing with the whole numbers, do you remember that we used to write this in figure? We used to write this in figures, but also we wrote them in words. Do you remember that? This one we said in words is equal to 1. Good. And this one we said is equal to what? 12. 12. That is beautiful. So, also here, when we write this one in figure, this is now in figure, we need to know how to write it in words. Is that clear, children? Great. So, in figure, it is 1 over 2. In words, it is a half, or 1 over 2. Now, these are the parts which make a fraction. I want you to be careful here. We have the first part, the third part, the second part, and the third part. The number above the number which is above this line, get to know it. It is called numerator. Repeat after me. Numerator. Again, numerator. It is called what? Numerator. Now, after the numerator or after the number above, there is this line. Do you see this line, children? Do you see it properly? It is even here. It is even here. We've been repeating it. So this line is called fraction line. Read again. Fraction line. Again, fraction line. Now, the number which is below the line is called denominator. Repeat. Denominator. One more time. Denominator. So now you need to know the parts which make a fraction. We have the numerator, we have the fraction line, and we have the denominator. Children, you have now understood what a fraction is, and you have now understood the parts of a fraction. The parts of a fraction. So I want you to get your notebooks. Within 1 minute, copy these, and then we shall see in your notebook, when you draw these diagrams, make sure that you get to know what to fill here. This is a pawpaw. Pawpaw. Again, pawpaw. So if I give you this part, how many parts have I cut it into? Equal parts. There are 2 equal parts. So when I get this and I give you this, what part of fraction have I given you? Can you fill in here, children? So 1 minute, do this, and copy also the notes in your notebook and write properly. Is that clear, children? Good. 1 minute. 45 seconds. 30 seconds. 20 seconds. 15. 20, 10, 5. Can you stop, please? Stop. So now, we are closing our lesson today. Remember what we have learned. We have learned the parts of a fraction. We have known what a fraction is. We have seen particularly at a half. Next time, we shall look at a different fraction. Thank you very much for paying attention to this lesson. See you next lesson. God bless you.